right. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to another comic book team up with myself and John's Longbox. Today we have Russ Leach back on for his closeout of the Shadow Kingdom. And as I was just saying to him before we started, he has been killing it over on Fun My Comic. They're about to hit 10,000. They have about a day and a half, 2 days left. We're doing this stream a little bit early just because you don't want to get the word out there, and you have a couple of days left in order to get yourself a copy. I got my copy ordered, and
I back.
Well, just for anybody who hasn't seen our last episode with you, Russ, can you give us a rundown of what the Shadow Kingdom is about and what your role in the production of it is?
Right, okay. The Shadow Kingdom is by Robert E. Howard. It's historically considered as the first sword and sorcery story. It's about Cull, who is an Atlantean, who through the trials of his life has ended up being the king of Valusia, and a Pict tribe have come to him via I suppose an ambassador, and then a tribal warrior called Brawl to give him a message about the Shadow Kingdom, which is effectively a kingdom of lizard men, of serpent men who can change their features and basically fool everybody as to who they are, and they kind of run things behind the show and are planning to kill him off and replace him.
And spoiler alert, they rule the world today, according to Alex
They still
Jones.
rule the world, exactly, yes. What I was about to say, it's actually got some beats in it that are, some people might find familiar. So there's politics in it, I suppose, from a general perspective, but it's an action thing. It's a call to arms for him and Brawl. He becomes friends, and I mean the story is a classic. Robert E. Howard is obviously famous for Conan and Solomon Kane, and Cull is in that ilk. It's fantastic stuff, and Randy Zimmerman of Arrow Comics is a huge Robert E. Howard fan.
And a great guy too. I had him on my channel. He was
Randy's
so enjoyable to talk about.
Fabulous. He really knows what he's talking about. Been in the industry a long time, and we've worked together before. We do a show on a Friday, Comics by Night, where we go through older comics and artwork and stuff, and he brings his knowledge of the industry to that show. And we got together, and it was an accidental conversation. Found out it was in public domain, and I said I must do it. So we did it, and he adapted it from the original text, which there's still a lot of Robert E. Howard's original prose in the graphic novel aspect of the book. There's 70 pages of strip. I drew the whole thing, and then the prose is also presented in its entirety in the book as well, so that you can compare notes between the two. And then there's extra artwork, a fantastic forward by Razorfist, and an outro piece by Randy himself. Like I say, with some extra artwork in there as well. So it became a package. It became a real passion project, and has actually developed into us now moving forward. Randy's going to produce some original work based around Brawl and Cull, and we're going to call it the Atlantean and do it in black and white and move forward from there.
Sounds spectacular. I have so many questions because I'm a huge Robert E. Howard fan. But before we get there, let's just show off this campaign for a minute or two here. Let me just
put the link in the chat.
There we go.
To click on that.
Yeah, the link is in the description as well for this on Fun My Comic. Just take a look here. Yeah, we're about to pretty close to less than $500 away from $10,000 US and 203 backers. So you've hit again almost 200% of your stretch goal. You're going to get there. One question: does this go into demand after the 2 days, or is this done in 2 days? Like you can't order.
I will have to talk to Randy about that. I think we're looking at shutting it down. But we may let it go for a little while, just so that people who haven't had a chance can maybe get to it. We will be producing a black and white oversized presentation of the book with additional artwork and possibly an additional story in it as well. So that'll be something that people can get to. It may go
Yeah,
to
magazine
Diamond.
size. You're
Yeah,
saying
magazine.
oversized.
Yeah, oversized. Yeah, big hardback. You know, like Genuine Comics are doing at the moment. Have you seen
Okay.
that?
I was
They've
just
done.
wondering, it could have been a treasury edition size because I love my
Yeah,
treasury edition.
yeah. I mean, it's going to be a big book. So yeah, Critical Blast will be producing that with us. So we're going to be doing something like that. And it depends on whether Arrow are going to be able to provide it through Diamond or not. If they're not, then we may well leave it up. Yeah. But at the moment, we're looking at sort of edging towards the idea of shutting it down because it's a limited edition.
So you have 110 pages already in the
Yeah.
book, and you're talking about adding possibly more art, and then for the extra edition, possibly another story. That's going to be a huge book,
Yeah, it will be a big book. Yeah. But it'll
and
be expensive. So, and that's why we wanted to get this book out. We wanted to get a book out that was that sort of touched all the bases. That's why we wanted to do it color this time, and we wanted to get to as many people as possible. And it's $25 for 110 pages. We feel it's a good value for what you're getting.
definitely.
And then this will then kick off where we go from now on. But yeah, I've always wanted to do like a black and white art version of something like this, and the opportunity has presented itself. So I think we're going to do it. Yeah.
Is this going to be the size of like those Savage Sword of Conan magazines?
This one that you're seeing right here is actually comic book size, standard US comic book, but the black and white presentation will
that's what I
be,
meant.
yeah,
Cool.
it will be at least that
is
size.
cool.
Yeah.
The treasury editions, as much as RJ loves them, they're just so big.
They're massive.
Where do you put them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got the
Conan.
Hulk vs. Batman one, and
Oh wow.
and I'm like, I'm like, where do I put this?
Oh, I know where I've put mine. I put mine with my big books. I've got some like really big art books. I've got a Brian Bolland and a John Buscema art book, and they're all like this size.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my treasured possessions is the treasury edition Conan. It's Conan. I always call it Conan on the Cross, but it's where he's crucified. Basically, it's Savage Sword #2, I think it was, but they colored it, and you can just see
Cool.
Buscema's beautiful art and the inking overlaid on top of that. You can see how detailed it is at that size. I love it.
You're beautiful. I've got the Barry Windsor Smith one where he's I think it's Red Nails. Yeah, it's lovely.
So you're also offering, it says here, there are, let's see. So you got the $25 for the book. Then there is $35 for the book plus a color print. Plus you have black and white prints available as well. What size are those prints?
Those are 210 by 297 millimeter. So they're a magazine size.
Okay.
8.5 by 11.
Yeah, that around there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. No, that's the same that I usually offer for my posters as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's also original sketchbook that you have. Is this only the sketchbook for Cull, or do you have other stuff in the sketchbook as well?
No, this is just a sketch. So you can have the comic book and an A4, same size as the prints.
Okay.
I'll actually draw you something. So either a character from the book.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood also. Okay.
Yeah, you could actually ask me if you wanted something else. I'll do that.
Very nice. So, getting back to, I would love to, let's leave some of this up. I'll put on a nice page here, but I wanted to ask you because I did, I was listening to you talk to Razor Fist because you talked to him, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And that really gave the campaign a good shot in the arm. But you were talking about Conan and your influence for Conan, and you're talking about just how much the Conan comics influenced you and your love for Conan. So I'm right there with you because that was my introduction to Conan. So I got to ask the penultimate Marvel Conan question. What is your favorite run of Conan from Marvel?
Oh yeah, it would have to be in the Savage Sword of Conan, the magazines, these ones. these ones, and it would be. I started with this. This is the one I've rebought this recently, and it was Iron Shadows in the Moon. It's a fantastic piece
Look at
by
that.
Buscema and Alcala. And so whenever I found these books as a young lad, I would buy them because they were just fabulous. So there were
Was it
so
hard
many
to buy?
stories.
Was it hard to find over there?
Back in the day, yeah, in the 70s, comics, we didn't have. I don't think we may have had comic shops, but I wasn't aware of them at that age. So it was all out of newsagents, like 7-Elevens or whatever you have the equivalent. And you couldn't always get things in order, to be honest.
Yeah,
I remember ordering Captain Britain weekly, and some weeks you wouldn't get it, and then you'd get 2 in 1 week. And that was nightmare as a boy because
Yeah.
you were relying on it being there. So whenever I could see a Savage Sword of Conan, I would get it. In fact, I didn't even realize that the color ones, the standard size ones, even existed at that time. I only knew about the black and whites in the
Are they the
magazine.
same editions that we get here in the States?
Yeah, I mean this
is it a British
at
edition?
that time. Yeah, because this is an import, so I would have got the import when I was a kid, and they would have been bringing them in because I remember them having dollar values on them. So I would have
imagine
just got them later than you guys. That's all.
And it must have been more expensive then, I imagine.
Oh, I can't remember. To be honest, it's a long time ago. but whenever I could find them, I got them. I had there was one story which again I rebought recently, which was these two, 16 and 17, and I remember this specifically, this cover, because I remember copying it and redrawing it in coloured pencil, and that was Worms of the Earth, which is Brackback Morn. And the second part of it, which was, where are we?
I think Worms of the Earth just went into the public domain.
Yeah,
I listened
Curse of the
to
Black Stone. There you go. I mean, look at that. It's gorgeous stuff.
Yeah, that was his favorite stuff to draw. You know.
Yeah, that wasn't Buscema. That was Tim Conrad. But the story in the front, the Conan story in the front, I think it was Wizards at the End of Time or something like that. Yeah, or the Citadel or something along those lines.
could have been the Scarlet Citadel. That is my favorite Conan story.
This is the people.
That's
of
the one,
Black
RJ. You
Circle.
said it's like a horror story at the same time.
Yes.
I mean, that's just fantastic stuff. So I was completely enamored with that stuff. So at the same time, I was picking up 2000 AD and Captain Britain Weekly with, again, Buscema and Sinnott on Fantastic Four, Steranko on Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm getting all this stuff, like, rammed into my eyeballs. So I was completely taken by all of that. So that when I came back to illustrating in 2010, it was I went on a journey of rediscovery and refound the things that had made such an impact on me when I was younger, and that kind of fed into the way that I drew.
When you rediscovered it, was it as good as you remembered?
With it better. It was better. Yeah. And the other thing is something that I talk about every now and then is styles and ink work by the greats. And of course, when you're a kid, when you look at this stuff, it's perfect. You think of it as being perfect, and of course it is perfect. It's beautiful artwork. But as an artist later on, analysing it, you can see where lines are rough and they're just put in the right place, and it becomes even more beautiful because you analyse it from a professional perspective as well. So big inspiration for the stuff that I
that brings up a really interesting question. And just looking at this page here, because I was actually the opposite of you. It was Conan the Barbarian that I started to buy as a kid, and it wasn't until I was like first year university that I ran across basically the Savage Sword of Conan stuff, and I found a place that was going out of business. I bought boxes of it. But my question to you is this, because you have Buscema, but there is quite a difference between his black and white stuff and the color stuff that you get within Conan the Barbarian. And there is difference in inkers. You got Ernie Chan and a lot of different people working on the Savage Sword stuff. But again, you see the lines that are much different in Savage Sword from the same artist than you would get with the colored editions of Conan the Barbarian. Which one would you take? I take it you take your influence more from the Savage Sword and the heavy inks there.
Yeah, I think like Alcala, I could never draw like Alcala. He's unique. He's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
I love his inks.
I don't try to. I think I'm more akin to someone like Ernie Chan. I've had people say that they can see him in my work, which is very
I could see
flattering.
that.
Yeah. And I think it probably is a closer call. Buscema was great at inking his own work, and he'd have a light touch on it compared to other inkers, and he was perfect at it. And of course, if you're going to fill that in with some base colors and maybe even some, I mean, there's some watercolor stuff out there as well. Just it's a beautiful way of producing it. What I find amazing is that Chan, Sinnott, you know, Alcala or Buscema himself, you can always see the man. You can always see his style underneath
Yeah.
all those inkers, even though they're a very different presentation of Buscema's pencils. That's a testament to two things. One, it's a testament to Buscema for being so great at what he is and so distinctive at how he manages anatomy and presentation, but also to those inkers that they can embellish in such a way that they keep their identity as well. I mean, Sinnott, the Fantastic Four run, which is the one that hit me, when I was youngest.
Yeah, that's when I started.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the fact that he was over the top of so many different pencilers. I mean, he went from Kirby through Buscema and then out the other side to
George
other.
Perez.
Yeah, and yet it all looked consistent. Sinnott was a genius as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it's one of those unsung heroes who doesn't get enough credit. I'm glad you're talking about him.
Yeah, and he made a big impact. And My Only Death Can Save Us stuff has a lot of inspiration from the Buscema Sinnott partnership, as well as people like sorry, it's late here and I'm getting old. Adam Warlock and Starlin. That's who I'm trying
Jim
to get
Starlin.
to. Jim Starlin's work as well. So they had a big effect on me, and that's where I wanted to go with Only Death Can Save Us, because it was kind of like fantasy sci-fi.
If you read those Jim Starlin Warlocks in the 70s and 80s and it didn't make an effect on you, then you're not into comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they freaked me out. I remember
matter of fact,
given those for Christmas. Yeah.
The 19th, Kelsey Shannon and I are going to talk on my channel about the Warlock story.
Cool.
He never read it before. So I can't wait to talk to a person who, especially an artist who just discovered some of the best comics ever made.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's fabulous stuff, and it had a deep effect on me, which is that came out in Only Death Can Save Us. But this is like the flip side of what I was reading at the time. What I'm getting to do here, and I'm discovering different aspects of my own style in this. So.
Did the Savage Sword, RJ, you probably know, did the Savage Sword, was that like quarterly or every 2 months?
I think it's monthly.
It was monthly? The big magazine size was monthly? Because I was wondering why, if Buscema had more time to make more detailed artwork.
Well, he didn't do all the stories. There is usually, if you go for a Savage Sword, it's like 3-4 stories within it. So sometimes he didn't do a lot of the work in it. I mean, that's why I would say probably, Russ, you're so attracted to Cull, because there was always every couple issues a Cull story thrown in there every once in a while, and it was just a history lesson.
Yeah, there was lots in there. It wasn't just the Conan stuff. That was the big hitter. But like, you did have Cull stories in there, Bran McMahon stories as well. And they were done. There was lots of different artists. I mean, Gil Kane had a good shot at a lot of Conan stuff. So yeah, it was pretty varied.
And of course, you have on the main, like on Conan the Barbarian, there was a run from Neil Adams as well. So you
Yeah,
got some heavy hitters working on that book.
yeah. That those.
What
pages
numbers are those
gorgeous.
around? Because I'm only up to issue 12 of Conan the Barbarian. I'm still in the Barry Windsor Smith era.
Don't remember off the top of my head, but I don't know if I mentioned this last time or not. I don't know, Russ, but I take the early Buscema Conan as really a pattern for how to make a comic, because it's a very interesting part of comic history in the fact that Marvel wanted him to do Conan from issue 1, but he was just too busy doing other stuff. So he had to reimagine his style in a much easier way, in a quicker way for him to draw. And by the time he got to get onto the book, he got that style, and I think he developed that style, his quick style, as much more the style that we're all used to within those first pages of the Conans that he did.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't aware of that. That's impressive. He had an ease about his style. It's sometimes you can look at some Conan pages and think there's hardly anything on the page, but it's his economy of line is something to be marveled at. It really is. He made expression and weight and drama in such an easy way. So yeah, it's brilliant stuff.
Plus, just looking at this page made me think also of one of the things, because I basically went back and read a lot of the Conan for preparing for Crom the Destroyer, and I realized something very interesting about the it's only, of course, in the Conan the Barbarian, because it's colored, and it has the colors that, the kind of colors that you're using here. But usually, if you have a panel that doesn't have a lot of action, but is supposed to, someone's yelling or things like that, the colorist did an amazing job, because there would be one panel usually per page that would have a red background in order to bring out action. So there's little subtle things like that just make you love comics.
Yeah, I checked out the color on those comics and realized that would be a really good way to present this, because when we first started this, we thought about black and white for this, and like I said, I wanted to hit as many bases as possible with the first one, and so we designed it around that.
Did you do the colors? I forget.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Again, it's just much like Only Death Can Save Us. The idea was to give it a muted, sort of, restricted color palette. And I used a color palette from the 80s, 70s, 80s Marvel.
Yeah, I love it.
And just went for that and let the inks do the major lifting, to be honest.
Yeah, I love it. I think like Art to Adversary, like the limited color palette of the 70s and 80s. Again, this old fart talking over here, things were better back then. But I think like it forced people to be a little bit more creative.
Yeah,
and I also think, a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I think like the same with the Comics Code Authority. They gave people limits of what they could do. So they got creative. Instead of just throwing boobs or gore and stuff like that, there was this suggestion of sexuality and the suggestion of enhanced fire that really filled my imagination, and nothing can compete with your imagination. That's why I like Lovecraft. He never really tells you the monster. You imagine the monster in your head, and what I imagine is horrific.
Yeah.
So I like that you use these old school, because it brings me back to that time as a kid, enjoying these comics.
Yeah, it's like that's definitely what I wanted to do with my work. It's like I came back in 2010 to draw comics. I'd gone away and had a career doing different things. And I decided to give it a go. 2010, it worked out that way for me. I came back quite naively and I had to work a few things out. I can show you some close-ups of the black and white in a minute if you like.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful.
And it is. I really like. Yeah.
And it occurred to me after a while that although there were modern styles, I should really be, keeping true to myself, and doing the kind of stuff that I love, because there was no point in me trying to be something I wasn't.
No, and if you do stuff you love, I think that transmits
Yeah.
to the work, and people are going to pick that up.
I think it does, and I think people pick up on your passion. And if you're here for comics to make comics rather than passing through, people who love comics will pick up on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I totally agree.
I was just going to say just one quick thing. There is a Marvel book they tried to put out in the 70s. It was Thanagar. Now, Thanagar was a book series, I think, that was a ripoff basically of Conan. But there's a lot of experimental stuff that they did with Thanagar that I think originally, they're thinking, I don't want to do this in Conan, so I'll stick it in this book. So you want to see some experimental things that with basically a Conan knockoff by Marvel themselves. Go track down a couple of issues of Thanagar. But
wow. Now you got me curious, RJ, a Marvel comic that I don't have. I'll be right back, everybody. I'm going to the comic store.
Well,
I actually just ordered today the 6-issue series of Joe Kubert's tour. I picked that up for $30, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know it's not quite Conan; it's caveman stuff, but it's still sort of savagery and beautiful artwork. So.
Is that your go-to genre for comics? Like barbarian,
sword and sorcery.
Yeah, sword.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, yeah, I suppose so. It's two ends of the scale. Like I say, I love the Stalin stuff. I love high, science fiction like that. That's really wacky and out there. But also, the based stuff, the action and adventure of sword and sorcery is killer.
Well, that Starlin stuff, now that you made me think about it, that's sword and sorcery in space,
isn't it? I suppose. Yeah, it is really. Especially if you look at people like characters like Warlock.
Yeah,
it is very much. I suppose it is sword and sorcery in space. Yeah. So yeah, it's adventure. It's action adventure. I just love it.
I noticed now in this independent comics sphere that we're all in, seem like fantasy and sword and sorcery is making a huge comeback. Like I'm one of the only people making RJ's making a classic superhero comic too. Me and RJ, but RJ's also doing a sword and sorcery.
Yeah.
So
there's room for
I'm
it.
excited because I like it now. I never used to like it as a kid.
I think there's room for it because people are fed up with the tripe they're being fed. They want action and adventure, and also like this stuff is, comics are for everyone. I keep saying this, and everyone deserves a comic, but like not everyone is going to like every comic. It's okay to have targeted audiences. And this is boys stuff. I'm sorry, for the most part, boys between the ages of 8 and 15 deserve to have stories as well. And action
totally
and
agree.
adventure is good for them. So
can you imagine? Like I said this the other day. Can you imagine if you went to a comic book store and 90% of all the comics were nurses, or 90% of all comics were like private detectives? It's weird that one genre dominates an entire medium.
Yes,
you turn on the TV and it's just game shows. There's nothing else but game shows or something. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And let girls have comic books too.
Yeah.
Stan Lee, we forget in the 50s the romance comics, which were aimed towards girls, those were the biggest sellers.
They were huge. Was that Kubert that invented Kubert and Kirby invented that in one way, one form or another? And Buscema did his stint on those comics and produced some fantastic artwork on them.
Yeah, Buscema was quoted as saying that he never thought he could draw beautiful women. So he did, when he did the romance comics, he said he tried to draw a child and then aged them up a little bit, and that's how he drew a woman's face. And he learned, he said, through the romance comics to do that. And I'm saying to myself, you want beautiful women, you go to Buscema. I can't believe there was ever a time where he couldn't draw beautiful women.
It's hard to believe there was ever a time he couldn't draw anything. Yeah.
Look at that Silver Surfer issue where Mephisto tempts Norrin and his three. I remember looking at the three women that Mephisto conjured up to tempt, and I remember like my parents can't see this, Like as a little kid, I'm like, oh, this is like eliciting feelings that I'm unfamiliar with. I'm a little
Yeah.
kid, I gotta read this comic underneath the covers, But so yeah, Buscema drew some sexy women.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
That's the thing, is it's okay. And you certainly that's what we want to do moving forward with the Atlantean. We want tits and dragons. It's fun, and there's that there's going to be plenty of girls out there that like it as well. Okay, it's not restrictive. It's just that we want to do that kind of adventure. And I want to draw it. So
there was a question here I wanted to ask you as well. How much do other things like the Conan movies influence you? Because I know I throw in things Hell West and Crooked when I'm doing Crown the Destroyer, from everything that touched Robert E. Howard. What about you?
Yeah, I the first Conan film I loved. I have it on DVD.
I rewatched it about a year ago. It's a great movie.
It's one of those ones that it's blood pumping. It gets you going. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's got fabulous music in it.
I listen to the music over and over again.
Yeah, it takes it seriously. It really plays it down the line. It's great. It's fantastic stuff. And Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time was perfect for the part. So
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the Cybrarian. If you want to go, anybody, if they want to go and just dive into Conan or Cull and Solomon Kane and things like that, the Cybrarian has a YouTube channel where he does basically like a radio play of the things that are in public domain. So great channel. I usually put it on in the background if I'm, packaging things or stuff like that.
Cool.
So we hit the about halfway mark. I wanted to play the trailer just to give everybody a little bit more of a show here. So give me 1 second and we'll hit play.
In the time before Atlantis sank and the lands of the world were savage and untamed, one man would claim his destiny. Leaving his Atlantean tribe behind and throwing off the shackles of Lemurian bondage, he sailed the seas as a pirate captain before seizing his place as a king. And now that he has the throne, how long will he be able to keep it? This is the Shadow Kingdom, the classic sword and sorcery tale by Robert E. Howard, adapted by Randy Zimmerman, with artwork by Russ Leach. Available now at fundmycomic.com.
Love it. I was going to ask you the question, Russ. The thing is about Conan, there's so many snakes, but there's everything goes back to Set, right? You don't really have a whole lot of the Shadow Kingdom or any of the I guess it would just be like remnants of it within the followers of Set. You ever when you read Conan think about how much Cull influenced those stories?
Well, yeah, I mean that first story by This Axe I Rule, is it?
Yes.
This Axe I Rule. That was a Cull story first, and then he rewrote it as a Conan story. So there's a lot of them in each other, and there's no doubt that it does affect. By all accounts, Cull is more like the man, Robert E. Howard, introspective and thoughtful. But what makes him interesting is, as well as that thoughtfulness, is that he's a berserker as well. He can lose it. Whereas Conan, even though he's like obviously very much a savage and very much a warrior, maybe doesn't lose it quite in the same way that Cull does. So you can see he's more than just a proto Cull. He's a character of his own, of his own making, his own type. And I think it was great the way they canonically made it so that they were part of the same lineage. Even Solomon Kane apparently is part of that lineage.
Oh, so Solomon Kane is a descendant of Conan?
But I think it is nodded towards, yes.
Oh, cool.
If
I didn't know that.
It's not explicit, yeah.
And across the Black River, I think there is a little hint of that for the Solomon Kane stories.
Yeah, so he obviously had a theme running through those characters, even though they presented in different ways. There was still, it's like with Conan, he's either going to kill you or he's going to look after you. You know, but there's something just about him, and colors like that as well. He's got a past, but there is a justice to him, and it's the same with Solomon
Completely
Kane.
agree. Completely agree.
So-
I always say that people ask me, how can you think of Conan as a hero? But I think of Conan as a hero because,
Yeah.
again, I look at where he ends up as a just king who is willing to sacrifice his life and everything he has for his people because he doesn't want them to live under tyranny.
Yeah.
That's the man he's becoming. So, I always see Conan as a hero.
Yeah, I definitely always saw him as a hero, always. So you've got those similarities running through, and like I say, he's more than just a proto Conan. He is his own character, and incredibly interesting as well. And Randy's going to dig deeper into that as we go forward with the Atlantean. So
One of the things that you said there was very interesting because talking about Cull as more of a reflective character just makes me think of, again, the Marvel Comics of Cull and how the covers are slightly different than what you would get with Conan. Conan, you got a lot of action on the covers and you got a lot of, he's striking at someone. Whereas, I think of a Cull cover and you think of him standing on the prow of a ship, and the waves coming up on him. It's very much introspective character. So
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful way to put it.
RJ, I looked up Thongor, and the title of the comic was Creatures on the Loose, featuring Thongor. So if anybody's looking it up, you look. And I'm happy to report that I do have those. So I panic avoided. There's Marvel Comics that I do have.
Okay, I've just shared with you some of the black and white that's in there. There you go. So this is a piece from the back of the book. Effectively, there's 5 pieces of conceptual art that we just that we're playing around with the ideas for the Atlantean. Within that series, Cull and Brawl are effectively on the road in incognito, going after the Shadow Kingdom, the Serpent Kingdom. So
oh wow, look at that.
We've got some.
What kind of creature is that?
No idea, just made it up.
Okay.
it's
I would be all excited. I thought you were going to give me a mythological explanation.
No, it's just a concept. It's just some concept work. That I quite like this one. So
yeah, this one I've seen on Twitter.
Yeah. So and then I'll show you some of the artwork from the book. So it's this.
I love how you just fill everything with detail. How long would it take you to draw that?
It's about a day. Yeah, I'd say around a day and a half,
I'd probably
maybe.
draw a fist and a sword and get bored. Move on.
Where's the?
When you say a day, that's like full inks and everything. Like totally
the inks are actually quite quick because I'm swapping the way I do things now. What I was doing was I was doing more detail in the pencils. Then when I got to the inks, it was literally just I went over what I'd done and there was a little bit of a flair in it. But I've started to do lighter pencils and just blocking where the light sources are, and then do the rest of it with rendering in inks. So I'm taking a bit longer over the inks these days.
I was gonna say just a nerd question here because I'm working with again Mike Gustovich, who is doing a cover for John as well, but he uses brushes for inks. Do you use brushes for inks?
Yeah, I use Pentel brush pens. They're pretty much a brush. They're close to a brush. I also use pretty much anything I can get hold of. So if it's a felt tip pen and it works, I'll do it. But I am looking into. I mean, I have used a brush, and I just preferred the Pentel brush pens. But sometimes I like. Sometimes I'm finding that the lines aren't quite what I want, so I may well dive into using a brush, a sable brush.
Can you go back to that picture of him sitting in the throne? I got a really weird question to ask you.
Go on.
That's got to be difficult to draw a person sitting in a throne, and you believe that the weight is supported by the chair. I mean, like that's a guy in a chair, and I believe it. The mass is on the chair. How hard is that to draw? I see comic artists draw a guy standing up and fighting and stuff, but like sitting in a chair and
this is this is tougher. It's definitely a tougher thing to do that. I mean, the master of that was Buscemi. You see some of his images; they're classic for that kind of thing. But yeah, it's the incidental stuff that is that much harder than big muscular guys fighting.
Like, would you draw the chair first and then draw him in the chair, or draw his pose and then draw the chair around him? I know it's a weird question, but I'm
no,
kind of
it's
imaginating that
it's
you could
not. It's a bit of both, to be honest. Because you've got the pose in your mind, and you've obviously got the geometric aspects of the chair itself. So you kind of think about where he's going to be sitting, how he's going to be sitting, and then you'll sort of draw the, or this is me personally, you'll draw the anatomy around how you would imagine him to be within the chair, and then you'll kind of flick the chair in around him to make sure it's in the right position, and then you'll apply some perspective to make sure that it sits properly, and build it from there. Really, it's not something that just turns up. Not for me anyway. I'm not blessed in that way.
That picture has, to my way of thinking, that probably involves more skill than two guys sword fighting.
John, there was a interview that Frank Miller did, and he talked about Will Eisner and how Will Eisner could draw, and he said he was the person who made him understand that your character had to wear clothes. They didn't have to have clothes put on over top of them. And I think that's what you're describing right here. It's the exact same thing again that Miller was praising Eisner for. That when you put the weight, when you can draw the weight of just the body and the clothes and everything around it, that's a masterful piece of art. And kudos to you, Russ, for being able to do that.
It is tough.
Eisner, I remember reading, and like a homeless guy was given clothes by a woman, and the clothes just looked heavy on him, and they didn't fit, and you could see the wrinkles. It was so believable. Just one panel of a guy trying on a jacket, was so cool.
Having clothes are tricky because it's easy to make people look bulky in them or odd, and getting the right fold in a cloth or whatever. It's it's practice. It's just you keep on doing it again and again and again, and realizing that all the people that you draw, they're not all in spandex.
Yeah, well that's probably why the superhero developed the way he did with the skin tight, because it's just easy to draw quicker.
Yeah, much easier to draw. Yeah.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Taz here for his £5 super chat. Thank you very much, Taz. He says, "Hail RJ, hail John, and welcome to our guest. Great to be here." Thank you very much, Taz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's start making sure that everybody knows about this campaign and has a grasp on it. When exactly is this going to end? It ends the 13th of April. I'm looking at the page right now at 10 a.m. ADT. What the heck is ADT?
I have no idea. I put in that it would end on the 14th, and it's done it to the 13th. So that's Saturday. I don't know what ADT is. I would imagine that's probably the end of the day on Saturday. So that it's finished for the 14th. But once it's done, once we've finished the campaign, it's ready to go. All the pages have been done. It's a completely finished book, so that we can go straight to print with that.
Okay, I'm going to add to John's questions and ask you. So it's 110 pages, I think you said. Now, how long did it take you to do 110 pages?
Wow, I know.
I don't know. Well, I don't have to do 110 pages because 25 of them or whatever are prose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's 70 pages of strip plus pages and covers. So there's probably about probably closing in on 80 pages of artwork.
Very good. Exactly what I did.
Yeah, I would say 2 or 3 months.
That's amazing stuff. Yeah. So, just to let everybody know, the link for it is in the description if you want to go over to Fund My Comic. And if anybody's listening to this afterwards, in the next couple of days, go on over to Fund My Comic. Let's see if we can put Russ up to 10,000. He's at 9,640 right now. Let's see if we can push him up to 10,000.
I got to say, hosted people.
Everyone.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I talked over you.
No. Off you go.
I say hosted people and having chats with people's turning expensive because I got to back every book. Everybody's so wonderful and nice, and the books are so great.
It's tough. I've backed many books, and it's difficult at the moment. You've got to pick the books that you really want out. So that's why I say in everything that I do, all the correspondence, if I send emails out, if I talk to people, it's always like, if you can't buy it, that's, of course you can't. Not everybody can buy everything, but share it out. If you can help just a little bit, if you can tweet about it, or if you can put a post up about it, just share a post. It's always appreciated. And I really appreciate every backer. We got to 200 backers within the time. I think we did a 6-week campaign, and that's better than I did with both of Only Death Can Save Us books. I got 270 on the first book, but that was only after I'd left it in like shop form, for 6 months afterwards. So this really is this is a great success. I'm just so pleased with it. Really grateful to everyone who's had me on streams, everyone who's shared or spoken about it, especially Razorfist, who gave it a great profile, and actually did the forward for it as well. That's super of him. And again, it's just fans coming together. He could see it was a passion project, and he's passionate about Robert E. Howard. So hopefully that passion shows through for people to see and enjoy it when they get it.
Randy's been in the business for longer than most people have been alive,
Yeah.
and talking to Randy to me is like the next best thing to talking to Stan Lee. He's got that great voice, and he's got that comic enthusiasm. And in he's been involved in comics in every possible way you could be involved in comics, and he even invented a way, like he did like flyers for comics in his, he
did a paper,
like a newspaper. Yeah.
So he's done everything. He's done conventions, he's done retail, he's written, drawn, and also like you say, published a free newspaper that ran off advertising,
right?
Because he had such a big circulation on it. So
I can imagine he's probably up late at night stapling comics together too. There's not one. Every aspect of comics that guy did.
Everything, and he's been in it a long time. Over 40 years now.
Yeah.
And he has a wealth of knowledge. And when we go on a Friday morning for Comics by Night, he's always got a story. He's always got, a little piece of
what time is that on?
That's on, unfortunately, it's on at 5 a.m. in the morning, EST. And I think it's on at 10 o'clock. Yeah, 10 a.m. in the UK. But we get most of our views on the rerun. There's a few people that turn up, and they're very, very appreciated, very much appreciated for them turning up. So it can be a lively chat, but most people watch it on the rerun, and they seem to enjoy it. It's good. It's got a growing audience. So
cool.
I suppose it's like I'll come.
What's it called? I'll put it in the chat.
It's Comics by Night.
Comics by Night.
It's effectively like Comics Kayfabe, except it's coming at it from a slightly different perspective. Obviously, with Randy having the experience that he's got, Glenn comes on as well. You also get Charles Santini, or is it Santino? I shouldn't get that.
Is that
wrong.
the name of the channel? Like if you search Comics by Night?
Oh no! If you go Indie Comics Network, or if you go to my channel, Comic Book Black Belt, the Comic Book Black Belt YouTube channel. You'll pick it up on there, or Randy's own channel. He has his own channel as well. But yeah, you go to Comic Book Black Belt. That'll do you. That's the YouTube channel you'll be able to see it on. And Charles was a Conan writer. He wrote some Conan for Marvel back in the day, and I think he was our first backer. Bless him. So I used his quote to say that. If he bought it, everybody should buy it. So yeah, but he has a lot to bring to the party as well. And like I say, Glenn's there. He knows a huge amount of stuff. Rex comes on as well. Devil Flyer. Rex comes on as well.
Another guy who knows a
Again,
lot about comics.
he's a collector who knows a huge amount as well. So there's a wealth of knowledge there, and we go through classic stuff that we all love, and take a look at how it's been done. And the conversation, goes here and there. Sometimes about the industry, sometimes not. But we work our way through a book, and we did the full run of Watchmen. We went through every issue of that, and we did an oversized black and white version of that so that we could see the artwork. So that was good fun.
It's fun talking
yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
I take a Long Island Railroad home from work, and there's this big, muscular, huge guy, and we just talk like we've been standing next to each other for a year. And then he just said the other day, "Oh, I'm taking my." He goes, "I'm all depressed. My daughter doesn't want to go to comic conventions with me anymore."
Oh.
And I was like, "I've been talking to you for a year, and I just found out now that you're into comics." 10 minutes later, we're sitting on the train, frantically talking about
That's brilliant.
Fantastic Four, George Perez just sent out runs, and Jim Shooter writing the Avengers, like hands animated in the air,
Yeah.
it was just so much fun.
I just love comics. Comics are great. They're the best. They are the best storytelling medium. There's simple
I
as
absolutely
that.
agree.
We've been
Somebody
doing
on
it
Twitter-
since drawing on cave walls for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah. Somebody on Twitter posted, what is the best way to adapt comics, TV, movies, animation? And I said, comics. Comics are the best.
Yeah, just make them comics. It's as simple
Comics
as
are the
that.
best. They're the perfect
Yeah.
medium.
Yeah.
I'd rather
So-
read a comic book than watch a movie. You know.
Randy also does Sunday Funnies as well, and we go through books on there. This month we've been doing Sword and Sorcery, or Savage Warrior books or whatever. We did Elric. We did 2 books of Elric.
The old Pacific comics with Michael.
Yeah. And
How
on
good were
Sunday,
those?
on Sunday this week, was it next? Oh no, I think next week we might be doing Wally Wood. We're doing going through his epic sci-fi stuff from the Eerie stuff. Yeah, outstanding. So we'll pick up what we did Brian, but this today we recorded for Sunday, and we did DR and Quinch, which is Alan Davis and Alan Moore from 2000 AD back in 82 or 83 or something, and that was great fun.
That was fun, yeah. I
Mind the
love that
Oranges,
story
Marlon.
when they're going to make the movie and they just spread rumors.
Mind the Oranges, Marlon. Yeah, that's what I ended up calling it. It's just so much fun. It's very, very funny. Very funny. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just talking about comics, just love comics. Just I've got a whole stack of comics here.
I got this collection of Alan Moore 2000 AD work, like his Halo Jones.
It's all my comics up there, and
wow,
there's a whole stack behind me as well. So it's not like I just draw the things. I love flicking through them and reading them and stuff. Yeah. And the 2000 AD stuff is brilliant. Judge Dredd was fantastic. Very subversive 2000 AD, all born out of the punk era. And that was the other thing I was buying when I was getting Captain Britain and Savage Sword of Conan. I was also picking up Judge Dredd in 2000 AD. So, as a boy, I'm reading some quite subversive stuff, and I think it was actually really good for me.
Never mind the oranges, Marlon. Oh my God, that became like a quote between me and my friend, even friends who never read the comic. We
right.
would,
it's so funny that this Marlon Brando character gets squashed by all the oranges, and that's what they call the film. And then they even have the crowd shouting it in the cinema, a bit like the Rocky Horror Show when people turn up and shout stuff in the cinema. Mind the oranges, Marlon. It's too funny.
That's so funny. Yeah, people forget Alan Moore could be funny,
Yeah, could. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
I would love to have him as a guest on my channel, but I think it would just be an hour of him insulting me.
Yeah, he'd just be grumpy the whole time. Yeah.
Why do you like comic books? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
We
Alan.
fall. Yeah, yeah. It's not. I do find a lot of his work entertaining, but I don't agree with him in any way, shape, or form. So
I don't
there you
even
go.
think he agrees with himself. I
No,
think
no.
I think he likes to just be shocking.
I think the only thing I ever agreed on him on was when he spoke to things like conspiracy theories and the uh, the Illuminati and that kind of stuff. And he said, you know, if you think that the world is governed by some kind of overarching conspiracy theories, is you're wrong. It's complete chaos. there's, there's nothing there. We're all completely chaotic. We haven't got a clue what we're doing. And I'm paraphrasing,
That's
but
just
that
what
was
an
effectively
Illuminati supporter would say.
that's just what an Illuminati supporter would say. Yeah, but yeah. Other than
Have
that,
you checked? He
yeah,
might be a Valusian.
it could be a lizard man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, make sure that we get this in at the end, Russ. Tell us a little bit about the Atlantean. What you're talking about sounds to me almost like the later, say later 150s of Conan the Barbarian, which was Conan and Zula. You know, they have the two buddying around. Are you going to continue to, if you're going to do this and you get to do a bunch of them, are you going to do it in sequential so that it's one long journey, or are you going to just jump all over the place like Robert E. Howard would?
Yeah, a bit of both. So the overarching aspect is that they're on this road trip to go find the rest of the lizard men, as it were, and along the way, they get to pick up maybe little snippets of information, um, but they get to have independent stories as well. So it's serialized, um, but each one is you can pick it up on its own and enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, they'll get into scrapes and chaos with dragons and witches and all kinds of sword and sorcery paraphernalia along the way, and that at the same time, Randy will be very keen to keep the sensibilities of Robert E. Howard in the Cull and Brawl characters. So he'll be trying to channel that in, but at the same time to have as much fun as possible along the way.
I love having a journey in that time period because you have to know the map pretty well.
There are maps, and we you know, Randy will be studying them. He he sent me some notes yesterday, actually, and the opening scene is a bar scene with a girl dancing on the table. So I'm really looking forward to drawing it. And in the background, it's dark and Brawl and Colour sitting at a table, you know, quietly talking over what their next move is. So you kind of you dive straight into the story rather than seeing what happened immediately after the Shadow Kingdom, and then that you'll get a flashback of that later on, so that you know exactly where you are. So
Some people
yeah,
don't know that Robert E. Howard can be very funny in his own right. There's a Conan story. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but Conan is drunk and he's about to get caught, and he runs for the door and he just slams his head straight against the door, knocks himself out. He's just on the floor. I just burst out laughing reading that.
Oh no, it makes him very human. That's what it makes him. And they did have a little bit of that in the film, didn't they? Where he was getting drunk, where he hit the camel.
Right.
He punched the camel out, and his mate, the archer fella, the thief fella, was holding him up, and it's just there is humour in it. There is that, and we're going to obviously try and keep that in the story as we move forward. And it will be. I've got an artist to do a painted cover for us, so we'll have a painted cover and a black and white interior, a bit like the old Savage Sword of Conan's. And the format will be an A4 format, so it will be oversized. So we'll be doing a kind of a magazine format on that.
Well, we did pick up a couple of more.
You did. Thank you.
Couple of more backers here. You're up to 9,675, 204
Wow.
backers.
Wow.
So one more time, I just want to remind everyone that link is in the description for the Shadow Kingdom on Fund My Comic. You have 2 days to go and back it. And if you do back it, once the campaign is over, they are going to start production right away. So you're going to get yourself a comic pretty quick.
Cool.
Should be in May. You should get a book in middle of May. Yeah.
Nice. That's fun. That's exciting.
And also, you were talking about the possibility of getting this into comic shops as well. Was it through, I don't know, was Alterna or Arrow Press was going to go through Diamond, right?
Arrow are chatting with Diamond. So I'm not privy to exactly what's going on there. So we'll see what happens. There is definitely going to be a Portuguese version.
Oh, wow.
Because Red Dragon of Brazil we've signed a contract with them, and they're going to be reproducing it in every territory that they can sell Portuguese language versions. They're going to do a color and a black and white version, and they're interested in the Atlantean going forward as well.
Oh, I find, quite honestly, I got a lot of people from South America interested in what I do, and both of my books, both the superhero stuff that I do and the fantasy. Always, like I had a guy for almost 2 years translating all my videos into Spanish because he said more people need to understand what you're saying and about comics, because there's still really good comic production and distribution down in South America.
Brazil has, I wasn't aware of this until a little while ago, but Brazil has a deep comic book culture. They have their own comic books, their own version of comic book as well as all the other comic books that you can get down there. So much like, I don't know, much like Europe has got a tradition, much like Japan has its own tradition, Brazil has its own tradition of comic book. And so, it's a massive market. So, fingers crossed we do well there. But it was great. I mean, because that's the other thing you've got to try and do is get outside of the pie. Like it isn't just other people reading comics and other creators. Get out there to other audiences. And we managed to do that. We managed to step into some other audiences, and by doing that, Red Dragon found us and approached us. So you never know where you're going to go. You just got to keep plugging.
I love the fact that, you run across a lot of Spanish translations of older comics from 70s and things like that. And they have some unique things to them. A lot of them had redone covers, and there was unique things like the fact that Peter Parker's hair was a different color in South America. All these kinds of fun things, right? So yes, they have their own comic culture, and they like to translate things so that it fits their comic culture. So it's
and this kind of stuff they like. They do like the adventure. They're keen on that. I don't know whether it's the Latin blood or whether they're just more based than the rest of us, but they do seem to enjoy it. So yeah.
RJ, did you tell me that in Mexico they made Spider-Man comics where Gwen Stacy never died?
Yes.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Good on Mexico. Good stuff.
Yeah, they had an entire separate line. I think Marvel tried to fold it in after a while to as an alternative timeline into the Spider-Man comics.
Cool.
All right. Well, we've hit our hour, so we usually like to keep it at an hour, not too long, not too short.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody for showing up in the chat. And again, we got 2 days left in order to back this. And I would like to, well, I'll give you a word, John, but we'll leave the last word for Russ.
Oh, thank you to everyone who has backed, shared, streamed with me, especially Razor Fist. You guys as well for having me on twice. Thank you so much. It really is a good book. Robert E. Howard needs more love, and we need to have more adventure stories. So thanks for everyone for supporting it, and there's more on the way.
All right. Well, we will close out on that very positive note. I am glad that there is more on the way. And as everyone knows, there is a link in the description, both for John's Heroic Tales and for my books, Crom the Destroyer and The Valiant Heroes. So thank you once again for everybody for showing up in the chat and who is going to show up. Again, back Shadow Kingdom, I have my copy on order. So does John.
Yeah.
So again, great looking book, and it's the beginning of something great with new stories coming out. So thank you once again for everybody, and everybody have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Das Vidania.